Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are in this world. God bless you. This is Gloria White coming to you from Utah, USA. Today we are continuing in the New Jerusalem Holy Bible. We are in the book of First Kings. We are in chapter 6, and we are on verse 23, the great winged creatures. In the Debir he made two great winged creatures of wild olive wood. It was 10 cubits high. One winged creature wing was 5 cubits long, and the other wing 5 cubits. 10 cubits from wingtip to wingtip. The other winged creature also measured 10 cubits. Both had the same measurements and the same shape. The height of one was the same as the other's. He placed them in the middle of the inner chamber. Their wings were spread out so that the wing of one touched one of the walls, and the wing of the other touched the other wall, while their wings met in the middle of the chamber, wing to wing. And he overlaid them with gold. All round the temple walls he carved figures of winged creatures, palm trees and rosettes, both inside and outside. He overlaid the floor of the temple with gold, both inside and outside. The doors, the court. He made the door of the Debir with uprights of wild olive wood and door jambs with 5 indented sections, and the 2 leaves of wild olive wood. He carved figures of great winged creatures, palm trees and rosettes, which he overlaid with gold, and he gilded winged creatures and palm trees. Summarily he made uprights of wild olive wood from the door of the Hekal, and door jambs with 4 indented sections, and the 2 leaves of juniper. One leaf had 2 ribs binding it, and the other had 2 ribs binding it. He carved winged creatures, and palm trees and rosettes, which he overlaid with gold, laid evenly over the carvings. He built the wall of the inner court in 3 courses of dressed stone and 1 course of cedar beams. The date. In the 4th year, in the month of Ziv, the foundations of the temple were laid. In the 11th year, in the month of Bul, that is, the 8th month, the temple was completed exactly as it had been planned and designed. Solomon took 7 years to build it. Solomon's Palace. Chapter 7. As regards his palace, Solomon spent 13 years on it before the building was completed. He built the house of the forest of Lebanon, 100 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high, on 4 rows of cedar wood pillars, with lengths of cedar wood laid horizontally on the pillars. The upper part was paneled with cedar right down to the tie beams on the 45 pillars, 15 in each row. There were 3 rows of window frames, and the windows corresponding to one another at 3 levels. All the doorways and windows were rectangular, with the windows corresponding to one another at 3 levels. He also made the colonnade, 50 cubits long and 30 cubits broad, with a cornice in front. He also made the hall of the throne, where he used to dispense justice, that is, the hall of justice. It was paneled in cedar from floor to beams. His own living quarters and the other court and inwards from the hall were of the same construction, and there was a house similar to this hall for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had taken in marriage. All these buildings were of special stones cut to measure, trimmed of the inner and outer sides with a saw, From the foundations to the coping, the, the foundations were of special stones, huge stones of 10 and 8 cubits, and above these special stones cut to measure, and cedar wood. And on the outside, the great court had 3 courses of dressed stone round it, and 1 course of cedar beams. So also had the inner court of the temple of Yahweh, and the vestibule of the temple. Hiram, the bronze worker. King Solomon sent for Hiram of Tyre. He was the son of the widow of the tribe of Naphtali, but his father had been a Tyrian, a bronze worker. He was a highly intelligent craftsman, skilled in all types of bronze work. He came to King Solomon and did all this work for him. The bronze pillars. He cast the 2 bronze pillars. The height of one pillar was 18 cubits, and a cord 12 cubits long gave the measurement of its girth. So also was the second pillar. He made 2 capitals of bronze cast for the tops of the pillars. The height of one capital was 5 cubits, the height of the other 5 cubits. He made 2 sets of filigree to cover the molding of the 2 capitals, surmounting the pillars. 1 filigree for one capital, and 1 filigree for the other. He also made pomegranates, 2 rows of them round each filigree, 400 in all, applied on the raised molding behind the filigree. There were 200 pomegranates round one capital, and the same round the other capital. The capitals surrounding the pillars were lily-shaped. He erected the pillars in front of the portico of the temple. He erected the right-hand pillar and named it Jachin. I have no indication of how I should be pronouncing this word. Jachin. He erected the left pillar and named it Boaz. Thus the work of the pillars was completed. The bronze sea. He made the sea of cast metal, 10 cubits from rim to rim, circular in shape, and 5 cubits high. A cord 30 cubits long gave the measurement of its girth. Under its rim and completely encircling it were gourds surrounding the sea. Over a length of 30 cubits the gourds were in 2 rows, and one of the same casting with the rest. It rested on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, 3 facing east, and on these, their hindquarters all turned inward, stood the sea. It was a hand's breadth in thickness, and its rim was shaped like the rim of a cup, lily-shaped. It could hold 2,000 measures. Pretty big bronze pool. Wow, they call it a sea. The wheels, stands, and the bronze basins. He made the 10 bronze stands. Each stand was 4 cubits long, 4 cubits wide, and 3 high. They were designed as follows. They had an undercarriage and cross pieces to the undercarriage. On the cross pieces of the undercarriage were lions and bulls and winged creatures. And on top of the undercarriage was a support. Under the lions and oxen there were scrolls in the style of, each stand had 4 bronze wheels with bronze axles. Its 4 feet had shoulderings under the basin, and the shoulderings were cast. Its mouth measured 1.5 cubits from where the shoulder rings met to the top. Its mouth was round like a stand for a vessel, and on the mouth there were engravings too. The cross pieces, however, were rectangular and not round. The four wheels were under the cross pieces. The axles of the wheels were inside the stands, and the height of the wheels was 1.5 cubits. The wheels were designed like chariot wheels. Their axles, fellows, fellows, spokes, and naves had all been cast. There were 4 shoulderings at the 4 corners of each stand. The stand and the shoulderings were all of a piece. At the top of the stand there was a support, circular in shape, and 1/2 cubit high, and on top of the stand there were lugs. The cross pieces were of a piece of the stand. On the bands he engraved winged creatures and lions and palm leaves and scrolls right round. He made the 10 stands like this, the same castings and the same measurements for all. He made 10 bronze basins. Each basin held 40 measures, and each basin measured 4 cubits, 1 basin to each of the 10 stands. He arranged the stands, 5 on the right side of the temple, 5 on the left side of the temple. The sea he placed on the right-hand side of the temple to the southeast. The utensils, the summary. Hiram made the ash containers, the scoops, and the sprinkling bowls. He finished all the work that he did for King Solomon on the temple of Yahweh. 2 pillars, the 2 moldings of the capitals surrounding the pillars, the 2 sets of filigree to cover the 2 moldings of the capitals surrounding the pillars, the 400 pomegranates for the 2 sets of filigree, 2 rows of pomegranates for each set of filigree, the 10 stands and the 10 basins on the stands, the 1 sea and the 12 oxen beneath the sea, the ash containers, the scoops and sprinkling bowls. All these objects were made by Hiram for King Solomon for the temple of Yahweh, were of burnished bronze. He made them by the process of sand casting in the plain of Jordan between Succoth and Zarethan. There were so many of them that the weight of the bronze was never calculated. Solomon made all the objects designed for the temple of Yahweh, the golden altar and the gold table for the loaves of permanent offering, the lampstands, 5 on the right and 5 on the left in front of the Dibur, of pure gold, the floral work, the lamps, the tongs of gold, the basins, the snuffers, the sprinkling bowls, the incense ladles of the pan and the pans of real gold, the door panels for the inner shrine, that is, the Holy of Holies, and for the hekal of gold. Thus all the work done by King Solomon for the temple of Yahweh was completed, and Solomon brought in the gifts which his father David had consecrated, and he had the silver, the gold, and the utensils put into the treasuries of the temple of Yahweh. And that takes us to chapter 8, and I'm going to stop there, and we'll take up chapter 8 tomorrow, God willing. And as always, I love you. The temple was beautiful. Just think, Jesus walked on its porch. How cool, huh? And as always, I still love you.